You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond.
Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 154, Deep Purple and Iron Maiden. And coming to you from the head-injured suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John Neuropathy Matola.
Nice. We'll have an explanation to that. Also coming to you from the nocturnal suburbs of Stockholm, we got Jonathan here.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Jonathan, the Swedish vampire.
Yeah, I think I'm the only guy on our entire podcast network with where this is my second language as well.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah. I think you're right. And of course, as being someone from a European country, you speak flawless, perfect English and occasionally drop words that I need to look up. So, we're used to that as Americans. We're used to people from other countries speaking far better English than we do. So,
yeah, well, far from flawless, definitely far from flawless. But I like doing it, and I like Americans too,
Well, you've said before that you feel like that English is like is a broader language, has like a larger vocabulary, and you enjoy podcasting in it for that reason.
If it's music stuff, yeah, because I guess then also when I work with music, that all the terminology is in English,
Yeah.
So, and a lot even since the early days when when I was a kid, I was on forums and stuff. It was all in English anyway. So for music, yeah, but I do miss the idea. I guess you can't miss something that never happened, but I do want to do some Swedish podcasting as well at some point, but it would be different,
You could just do a translated version of our episode. You could translate all of our dumb jokes. But wouldn't the problem be that like you couldn't do something like that, right? Because like pretty much everyone in Sweden speaks English.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense. No, not really. Subtitles.
Like, why are you translating this for us when we can understand it?
Yeah. But anyway, cool to be on the show.
Yes.
It was probably the first show of this kind was the Purple Podcast for me. And I was just plainly getting into Deep Purple again and looking for Deep Purple Podcast without knowing that there was the Deep Purple Podcast. So yeah, again, your name, your unimaginative name helps you.
Yes, it always comes through for us. As lame as it is, it always comes through. So Jonathan, not only we've been talking for years, apart from listening to the show, obviously, which is how we kind of first connected, you do some shows and some stuff for your own. So why don't you tell, for our listeners that aren't familiar, you're part of the Deep Dive Podcast Network, but tell us a little bit about the podcasting that you're involved with, where they can find you.
Yeah, we got Maiden A to Z going. So it's me and a friend from Stockholm, but he's originally from Virginia, US. He moved at age 11 in 94, so way before we met, and we were just sort of acquainted in the music scene. But I was, just like John is probably feeling about talking about Kiss, I was dying to talk about Maiden. Now I get to do it, so now I'm it feels fresh. I want to talk about Deep Purple today, but rather than Maiden. But there was a couple of podcasts around. They ended, one Swedish one and then a Canadian one. They ended pretty much at the same time, and I felt, okay, if I don't strike now, it ain't gonna happen. And then you were kind to invite us to the network, which has been great for us. We've been also cross guesting a little bit.
Yes, lots of cross-pollination going on there.
So what we do, we do all the songs. We do them in alphabetical order. I stole that from Alphabetalica, Tom Quee's podcast. Because I guess I sort of like that, it takes the control out of our hands in what to pick, because otherwise we might use all the good stuff. Yeah.
Very cool.
Offshoots and stuff. Yeah,
it's a great show. A lot of fun listening to it, and as somebody who's not as familiar with Maiden myself, I enjoy kind of hearing your insights. And I have to go to listen to some of the songs sometimes, because some of them I can listen to, and then some of them I say, well, I got to hear the song and really kind of dive into it a little bit before I hear what they're saying, because I'm a little bit of a novice. But before a little housekeeping before we move on. John, what's going on with you? What's this? John Matola, I should say.
Oh yeah,
you mean
what was the
John-
nickname? What was the nickname? I forgot already. Yeah,
Neuropathy.
neuropathy.
It's a good one. So what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I had what was my birthday like a month ago, and already I'm falling apart.
Yep.
I don't know. I've been just like I've been getting tingly feet lately, so I'm just like,
Uh-oh.
that's not good.
You know what that means? That's the onset of the dad's cold feet.
Well, my dad has that, and so I was like, I asked him yesterday. I was like, "Come here." I said, "What is?" So what does neuropathy feel like? And he's trying to tell me, and he's like, "Why?" And I said, "This is why I don't tell mom, because she'll get all worried." But he's like, "Yeah, give it a couple more weeks, and then go to the doctor." So he's like, "See, that's advice I can use. Like maybe it'll go away, but if it doesn't, then." Get it fixed. But no, I've been waking up with like that. My feet don't hurt. They just like it feels weird. And so I'm just like, all right, this is different. And so I thought maybe it's because like my feet are tired. I don't know. We'll find out.
Is there a name for this, John? Is there a name for this? We have this thing here, port wine toe. There's like old men that they get
Port
this,
wine
they
toe.
lose, they lose sensibility in their feet or something. But that's different, I think. It's called port wine toe because you get it from eating lots of fat food and drinking lots of alcohol. But
well,
I think you're not too into that, right?
That's yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, depending. In Florida, I certainly was. No, they call that diabetic neuropathy. I'm like, knowing me, I'll probably become diabetic, and because I love sugar, so we'll see.
Well, let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah,
not.
let's hope not. That's no bueno.
We have the port wine stain. If somebody has like the
yes,
the birthmark, they call it like Gorbachev. They call it a port wine stain.
Right, the birthmark. Right.
Port. What do you say again? Port
wine toe.
Port wine toe.
I don't know if it exists outside of here, but something that happens anyway, apparently, to your toes.
Is it like is it just your toe? Is it like gout or is it different?
That rings a bell anyway. So
gout is like when you eat, like they say it's like a beer and like tuna fish and weird things.
Yeah.
If you eat like a lot of that, it like, it's just this excruciating pain in your foot. I thankfully haven't had it, but
yeah, well, I don't know. What is the past year? Twitchy eyes, tingly feet. Who the hell knows what's going on?
Right. I've also had that. I was empathizing with that. Your twitchy eye. Yeah. What the hell?
Oh,
it's not
that
nice.
was awful.
It's a terrible feeling, like that little irritation. Like
I think it started to subside right around the time that I came to visit you, Nate.
Yeah, I remember you.
Like it was still kind of happening because I have my twitchy eye drops with me just in case it acted up.
Yeah.
With a picture of the guy and the thing was like, god damn it.
The picture of the guy going like this on the bottle.
How was that meeting again? It must have been years, right?
What?
Was it just business as usual when you guys met again?
Yeah.
It must have been years.
Yeah, it had been a long time.
Yeah, what, 20
almost 20 years? I think. Yeah. It was just like
I opened the door expecting to see Nate, and I just saw the chaos of his three kids and then him standing behind him like, get out of the way. I got to see my friend. I haven't seen him forever.
What was the band again? Martin and the
Martin and Elliot are the boys.
No, I remember it was a band also, like Martin and the Red Caps, but that wasn't the name.
No, that's
Martin
Ronnie and the Red Caps.
Yeah.
Martin and the Make Believes. That's one.
Martin and the Make Believes. Great
one
name.
Of his band names.
Great name.
Yeah, it is a good name.
That is pretty
all they
good.
need is songs and albums, and they're gonna go places.
So what's going on with the bandage on your head, Nate?
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, it's kind of. It was very obvious before. I've got a big goose egg on my head. So, Jonathan, a couple years ago, had injured himself in a bicycle accident. And I today injured myself in a bicycle accident in the stupidest way possible.
Jeez.
So my daughter's bike was like just in the garage. And I couldn't park my car in there. So I put a hook in the ceiling and I hung the bike up. This was a while ago, but usually I park in the garage and then I pull my car out and whatever. So when I'm going through the garage, the bike hangs right over the hood of my car, so it's not an issue. Well, I had to bring my son to his doctor's appointment, so I pulled in outside of the garage And then I grabbed some of his stuff. He had a basketball with him. Who knows why? I threw it in the garage, and I was watching to make sure that as I'm running to the house, because I had to get something before we ran out, I threw the basketball, and I don't know why I was so concerned about the basketball. It's like, oh, I hope it doesn't roll around and knock anything over or something. And as I was doing that, bang, I smashed right with the little nut that holds the wheel in place. Boom, just hit me and like punctured my skull. And
you ran into the bike.
Yeah.
And this happened in the garage.
In the garage, yeah.
Oh geez, I thought you were going to say like it was on the hook and it just like randomly fell off and fell on your head.
No, I ran straight into it.
God.
Yeah, and I was so then you do when something like that happens, you're just doing damage control. Like, okay, what kind of pain am I in? What's happening? Am I gonna? And then my first thing was like, oh shit, am I gonna have to cancel the show? What's going on? And then I saw myself in the mirror, and I was like, oh god, there's this blood everywhere, and I've got this giant goose egg on my head, and yeah, but it ended up being not so. My wife just ended up just running out and taking my son to the doctor instead, as I was like, making all sorts of noises.
You seem in good spirits.
Yeah, and then it was fine. And then I was like, I took a shower. I got ready for the show. I got dinner on the table, and I was like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. Could have been worse.
So, halfway through the show, if Nate starts mumbling gibberish or like keels over, then we'll know that it's time to
I was looking at some of the signs of like a concussion. Like if I start becoming really irritable with you guys, if I start
hard to imagine.
More kind of concerned. I'm like, am I gonna be able to like run all this stuff, or am I just gonna start like having weird like lapses in my memory and stuff? I'm like, wait, what are we doing here? Wait, I have a podcast?
Yeah.
Well,
I got more notes than I have for my own show, so I can help you.
That's good. Yeah, you're gonna. I'll transfer hosting duties over to you guys, and I'll just be like, cool. That was a cool video. But yeah, so but before we move on and kind of talk about the meat of the show, we have to just kind of touch on a few things. If you want to help support the show, there's a few ways you can do so. One is by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. 2, you can buy some merch at our Etsy stores. We have shirts and mugs still available. You can become a patron on Patreon or donate on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. You can help support the show, get production credits on every episode. It's easy, it's fun. All the cool kids are doing it. And then brand new way to support the show, you can donate using Cash App. It was one of those things, like I saw people keep posting their Cash App, and I was like, ooh, that's what the cool young kids are doing these days. The same people that love Deep Purple music. So why don't I see if I can sign? So I signed up for it. It took like 2 seconds. So it's $DP pod, DPPOD. If you want to send us money using Cash App, and you can be the first person to send us money using Cash App, or maybe nobody ever will, but you know what? Didn't cost me anything to set it up. So
it's an option.
It's an option for you if you want to do it. I have Venmo, as we figured out with Rich, so I'll have to figure out how to just post that here. But
that was painful.
That was very painful.
20 minutes of our lives will never get back.
Well, you guys were just walking around enjoying the scenery. I was.
Oh, that's true.
Rich was the guest that joined you in Florida and on the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
that was great.
I
shout out to him.
Yes, Rich got a lot of great feedback, and is this the first show we're recording after recording that one? No, we recorded one other, I think.
No, we did 1 or 2 more.
But yeah, Rich is getting a lot of great feedback, and a lot of people really enjoyed the Florida show. So, so speaking of patrons, heyo, we have a new patron coming in. Coming in at the $25 uncommon man tier. We have none other than Ovis Nakvi. Thank you so much. We have been communicating back and forth for a while now. Great guy, really passionate about Deep Purple, and has got some really great stories. He's been involved with some projects and stuff related to the band. So he's a really great guy, but he writes in and says, you two provide endless enjoyment. He says, we English pride ourselves on irreverent humor, but you gents manage to combine an emotionally, deeply sincere intent with an endless sense of irony and irreverence. Wow. Very concisely put.
It's true.
I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like I'd be, I feel wrong
well put.
agreeing.
I like someone that makes what we do sound more important than it actually is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said important, but
Yeah, it's exactly the same for me and Eric. We try and put
Or,
some kind of drama into something that is not important. That's what we try
Yes.
and do every week.
Exactly. But not to be outdone. Hey-oh, we have another new patron.
Hey-oh.
This new patron comes in. This new patron is coming in at the $1 made up name tier. The new patron's name is Sugar Tits. Thank you
Sugar
so
Tits.
much for joining us, and mostly because I just think this person wants me to have to hear me say that every week, time in and time out.
Awesome.
So I got a note regarding this from Fielding Fowler. He says, upgrade time. I think my girlfriend Sam is feeling left out with Spike and I being patrons of the best Deep Purple podcast out there. So I added $1 for her. Her made up name will be what everyone calls her, Sugar Tits. So there you go. So now I have to say that every week. Thank you for Fielding and the whole family. We really appreciate your
next to the Leaky Mausoleum as well.
Exactly. It's going to begin with Leaky Mausoleum and end with well, we'll get there later. Okay. So speaking of patrons, to thank all of our patrons coming in at the executive level tier, topping it off now, the $25 uncommon man tier. Heyo, new patron Ovis Nakvi. Thank you so much for joining us. At the 2112 long live rock and roll tier, Richard Fusey. At the 10-pound tier, Dr. Jill Brees. At the turn it up to $11 tier, we have Clay Wambacher, Frank Teelgard Mortensen, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and Mikkel Steen. And at the $10 someone came tier, Ryan M, Jeff Bryce, Gerald Kelly, Victor Campos, and Better Call Saul Evans. Thank you so much to all of you for your generous and continued support of the Deep Purple podcast, rounding out that executive level. Thank you so much. But before we, a lot of the housekeeping this week, unbelievable. Before we move on, we've got one last thing to cover. Oh my goodness. That's right. If you've been listening to the show, you know that what the Flexitone means. That means we get another 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This one coming in from the United States. The title, this is from Mike in Cle, C-L-E, so maybe Cleveland? I don't know. 5 stars. Title, very knowledgeable guys. They are beyond devoted to this band. You will learn something, not just about Deep Purple, but other interesting bands as well. By their very long friendship, these two hosts will entertain you thoroughly. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot like one other thing. This is just we're gonna have to just like have a recap show where we catch up on stuff. But in the latest from Postcards from the Edge of Connecticut, we got another one. Peter Gardeau. Does that look familiar to you, John?
Oh, that's a Dali.
That's a Dali. Comes in. It says, Nate, just finish up the Florida episode this morning. A very good, concise recap. Sorry you missed the Dali Museum. Here is a memento for you, Pete. So Peter Gardeau coming in with my latest in my postcard collection here. I'm gonna have to get like a shoebox to put these all in pretty soon.
Probably like start wallpapering one of your walls with them.
Yeah,
by the time he's done.
Just go over the back there.
Yeah.
All right, so this week we're joined by Jonathan, of course, to talk about Deep Purple and their connections with Iron Maiden. We've done similar episodes like this before with Black Sabbath. We did one with Van Halen. Have we done any others? I can't remember. Uriah Heep. We did Uriah Heep.
Right. Yep.
So we're making our way slowly through the Deep Dive Podcast Network shows. So I guess to start it all off, Jonathan, if you want to tell us like what your background is with Iron Maiden and you know what your feelings are in the band and what brings you here today.
Well, I wouldn't say Maiden brought me here today. That's just what I've been doing, you know. You find this band when you're 12 and you know, there's pretty much no way out, especially if it's a really good band, which I would say Maiden is. You know, I say that to friends. They're not ever going to listen to them. I still stand by that it's a really good band and very true to their spirits. I think, you know, it's a very honest and real band, no matter if you like it or not, you know, in the results. So I've stuck with them ever since. And I did like, I think 1.5 years in between 12 there and, you know, 14, I was just by Maiden, nothing else. And I was into music only for Maiden. But then I sort of went back to my collection, and in there's Beatles was my first record, was Sgt. Pepper on CD when I was 9. And I sort of where do I go from here kind of situation. But then in came all that death metal and stuff that you guys are, you're slightly older than me. So you didn't get that in that age. But if you
Nice of you
did,
to say
it
slightly.
was slightly older. I guess 6-7 years, I don't know, but something like that. But anyway, that was a big thing, especially in Stockholm, so I went straight in for that. And I had sort of a resurgence with the classic rock that coincided with finding your show. And I mean, you Nate, you guested my other podcast, Gaining for Riffs, which listener, check that out too.
Yes,
even though we're not active. But in that one I said I claimed totally wrong that I had been listening for a year. Actually, I went on already at like episode 5 or something like that, I think. Very early on, and that was a guide for me to get back into Deep Purple and starting to get the vinyls going and all of that. So now it's been like classic rock for 3 or 4 years has been the main thing, even though I've been into other music as well. And then Maiden is always there on the side, always happy to talk about them. But nice to do it now, maybe in a different context as well,
Yeah. Awesome.
And that's the background pretty much. I've done cover bands, I've seen a few shows, all of that good stuff,
Great. John, what's I don't know that we've talked much about Iron Maiden before, but what's your background with the band?
I don't have too deep of a background with them. Like I knew like when I was or when we were teenagers rather, and the main source of everything was magazines and stuff like that. The thing that I noticed was, I mean, they were all in the same magazines of all the bands that I like, Hit Parader and Rip and Metal Edge and all that. And what I noticed like was I was always aware of like the album covers, like the art, like I'd never heard them really. And even when I remember when I was in elementary school, I can't remember which one it was, which album cover, but this kid had a back patch on his jean jacket. We were like 6th grade or whatever. And it was like, Eddie coming out of the grave or something like that. It was like grotesque. And I was just like, man, what's that? They had definitely had the coolest imagery of any band, but I never really got into them because I always associated that with harder music than I liked, because I was really into glam first. And hair metal. But eventually, like probably later on, like when I got a little older, like I was like, I mean, I had heard stuff like Number of the Beast and the popular stuff that you had heard, and there were some people like some friends of ours that really into them, like E-Rock, like that kind of stuff. But I was really not into it, and then I gave it a chance a little bit later, and I actually wound up buying a few of the CDs and just not really getting deep into it, but just having my favorites. I remember there was a guy I worked with, and I was probably around 20 or 21, I think, and we were like working an overnight shift. And he was just like, "Oh, you got to hear Power Slave." And he put in the CD, and we like just listened to it all night. And I was just like, "Yeah, this is good shit." Like 2 a.m. Yeah, we were like, "This is good shit." So that's actually what really got me into it. So probably like early 20s, so not too far removed, but that was probably my first exposure to it, because you just kind of popped it in the boombox, and we were blasting it through the store. And so that's pretty much it. I'd say you call me a casual fan.
I already have a tangent here. Sorry, we're already going off the rails. But in Stockholm, there were these. I'm also old enough to have been in that magazine age, and more of a local culture, if you will, less of the global one. And you would have like different suburbs. One was into Metallica, one was into Ozzy, and one was into Maiden. Maiden was quite big where I was, and I've heard from the guys born around your time and earlier, like 70s, that Upplands Väsby, for example, is an area outside of here with lots of bands coming in, like Yngwie Malmsteen, Europe, those kind of bands, Talisman. And that was all about Deep Purple over there at that time. No one listened to Sabbath, so these local little cultures that are, I think a lot of them would have loved to listen to Sabbath, but the thing that was going on was Deep Purple at that time. And I think that explains why, like, Yngwie's complete fanboy of Ritchie, for example. So that depends, that changes how you like discover music. For me, it was a slightly younger cousin, and he just brought up the paintings. As you said, they are very important for Maiden, those sleeve illustrations, because no other band does that, right? Not really.
No, I mean, you had like, when he was solo, like Dio had his mascot, the demon kind of thing.
Murray, I think it's called Murray.
Yeah, but I mean, that wasn't really as identifiable as Eddie. I mean,
and you had Vic Rattlehead. But...
Yeah, and Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons said Eddie is a merchandiser's dream.
Yeah. He's just mad he didn't come up with it.
Yeah, like money. The truck is backing up with all the money.
But yeah, that was, I think, for that was probably the most popular one I could think of, because that's what all the metal kids liked. And I mean, over here, like if you had like Ozzy, Metallica, Iron Maiden, like they all kind of went hand in hand. And I would be more toward the Ozzy side of it, because that would be, I guess, the more accessible to me. But then when you got like Iron Maiden and Metallica, that was a little too heavy for me at the time. So I just wasn't as into it. But at least I got a little respect from that, being on that fringe, and then they knew that I liked Poison and they were like, wuss.
Well, you had long hair, right? You had long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all that counts. In that age, that's an investment. That's an investment to grow that hair. Yeah.
Oh yeah, me and Nate both.
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
I guess I
sadly no longer.
Yeah, you cut it off fairly recently, right? In the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm heading that direction anyway. I'm 35 now, so let's not push it.
Yeah, I guess
let's not push it.
For me, Iron Maiden was always just kind of out of my reach, and kind of I never really thought about it until you guys are starting to talk about about Eddie and all that. Like I think I always just associated them with being something different than what they were, like because of the imagery and everything on their album covers, and just like how gruesome and brutal and everything looked. I thought it was a much, much, much heavier band than they really are. I mean, they're heavy, of course, but they're so, they're so much more melodic and so much more than just being a heavy metal band. Like I was big into Metallica, really big into Megadeth, Anthrax, those
much heavier, to be honest.
Which are I mean, a lot heavier in some cases.
Yeah,
and not as melodic overall.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Megadeth has their stints, though. I think Dave Mustaine is a big fan of Maiden. I also love how often Megadeth gets mentioned on this podcast.
Yes. Well, Megadeth was. I mean, me and John are pretty big into.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. I love it. Some of the best riffs in history.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out some way to work them into the show, but if you thought the Aussie thing set people off,
wait for the network to expand and let's see what happens. Right?
Need the Megadeth podcast to come on.
I even have a name for
tenuous connections.
I have a name for a Megadeth podcast because that was my second choice below Maiden A to Z. But I have to keep
just give it away on the show.
No, I'm gonna have to keep the name. It's too good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't
yeah.
You can tell us off the air. We won't steal it.
Right.
So yeah, like for me, like I never like had anything like against Iron Maiden. I just never really got super into, it's like we talk about on the show, there's only so many hours in the day and you just for some reason you just kind of slip by. But I do have something of my a picture of me. This is from a while ago. So there's me.
That's a cool picture. I like that.
Wearing a Seventh Son of a Seventh Son t-shirt.
That one is expensive today if you have it.
I know, right? I wish I still did have it. So this was a trip that I took with our friend Paul to England. This was taken in Reading, England. And I don't know what the hell we were doing, but I was like, I had like a bed sheet on me and I was like a cape and I was like flying towards them. So speaking of my long hair is flowing in the background and you can see my Iron Maiden t-shirt. So I was just going through some old photos because I remembered I had this shirt and I remembered this photo specifically for some reason. And then so I started going through a couple of the photos and I found myself wearing it a couple of times. This is me in my bedroom wearing the same shirt.
Oh yeah.
Just jamming on the guitar.
Bang. That's good.
Just a ball of hair. It was just a box of saltines.
Yeah.
I've never seen this one before.
You never saw this one? That's our friend Dan's
awesome.
guitar.
Is that a Kramer? It looks like a Kramer.
It is like a custom, like Franken guitar that my friend and former bandmate Dan gave me, and I think it's still in pieces at my parents' house. So it's that one, and then there's me playing the bass with a silly hat on in my
I
bedroom.
think
Nice
I remember
shades.
that one.
Yeah, cool
So,
shades too.
wearing some shades. And speaking of Megadeth, you see that was my I don't know, junior year French project. We had to make a
Le
poster.
Megadeth.
We had to make a poster in French, so I wrote Le Megadeth.
The Megadeth.
And I drew the
But-
cover of Peace Sells, but who's buying it? It's Pavon me qui hachete, I believe is how that pronounces.
You do look
so-
French in that photo. You do look
Yeah,
French.
but I look like a friend with my silly hat and my sunglasses.
Yeah, and all
Wow.
that hair,
And there's our friend Paul playing the piano with a Megadeth t-shirt on, so kind of unrelated.
Yeah, Paul was always wearing that shirt.
Yes, he was. Constantly. In fact, I should find the picture. I dressed up like Paul in this picture for Halloween about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And I went to his house, and he had also dressed up as himself from that era. So we both had to have wigs on because he's completely gray now. So we both had wigs on and the little purple glasses and the Megadeth. I ordered the same Megadeth t-shirt off of eBay or something. So that's kind of my background. Like I had this like seventh son of a seventh son shirt that I wore around everywhere until it just got holy and fell apart, but never really got too much into the band. But to celebrate tonight, I have a premium British beer here.
All right.
Trooper.
Trooper.
Yep.
So I figured I'm going to give you a beer review on the air of this beer. It also comes in I got a 4-pack right here too, just in case that's not enough.
There we go.
So here we go.
We,
And now
we
be
did our
careful
episode
pouring it
actually.
because you have a head injury. I don't want you to spill it all over the console
Right.
We
Yeah.
don't want
Don't do
to
that
happen
again.
like the other episode.
Exactly.
All
So
is good that ends well.
I don't know if this I don't know if you can get this by you, Jonathan, but I know it was pretty big.
Oh yeah. We can. Last time I was in-house front of house engineer because I work in sound. It was we had that even standard in our bar, which is nice because I'm not gonna say what I think about the beer though because I don't want to spoil your review here.
I'd say it tastes exactly as good as it needs to taste, having the Iron Maiden name on it.
Yeah, then I will say I think it's a pretty poor beer.
Yeah,
but for
it's not
me,
that good.
if you slap that logo on, I'm
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
I'm
I mean,
in.
look at that. That's great.
Yeah, I'm in. And it's not. I mean, I think I would agree that it's good enough. For it. We even did an episode, Beer of the Dark. I think it was episode 50, with the bass player from In Flames, and we talked about because he makes beer now, in like a microbrewery type situation.
Yeah, I think I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, really, really nice guy. And we talked about them, but he was also not really a fan, but a huge fan of Maiden. So he said, like, yeah, of course,
It's
for
like
the pre-party.
it's like anything that's licensed, and you had like the early days of or the early days of video games, like when the ET game came out, it was like, well, it's got ET on it, we're going to sell 1 million copies, doesn't matter if the game is garbage. Kind of same with this. It's like this beer doesn't need to be any better than this because it's got the Iron Maiden name on it. It's going to sell. They've had it out for years now. It's still selling, so who cares? It's good enough.
Yeah, for me, it was anything with the Turtles logo on it when I was a kid. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
anything
yeah.
with that on. You had like oven pizzas. That was Turtles pizza you could buy here in Sweden. And anything with that on, I would buy. That's how it works. But I remember thinking like any video game based off a film or something would probably be shit. But then there was the DuckTales game. I don't know if you played that. That was great.
DuckTales game was
it's an
very
awesome
good.
platformer.
And a very good soundtrack too.
Good music. Yeah.
Yeah, every so often there was an exception that proved the rule, but all right. So hey, we got a bunch of notes, some stuff that I put together, some stuff that Jonathan sent over. But first up, we got kind of the influences section. We've got Bruce Dickinson talking about how Ian Gillan influenced him. Should we get into that? Should we just play the video of it?
Sure.
Yeah. So let's listen to a video. I'll turn up the volume a little bit. And this is Bruce Dickinson once again talking about how Gillan influenced him.
So Jack, what was it like working with Bruce Dickinson as a producer? How did that all come together?
I got a phone call one morning here in Seattle from Bruce Dickinson of Iron, formerly of Iron Maiden, which was pretty amusing. And he just called me directly and we talked. And it was interesting because we realized we were kind of close to the same age. I think maybe I'm 6 months older than he is, something like that. And I think we probably had very similar record collections, which was part of the whole thing, when we were talking about old Jethro Tull albums and Deep Purple and whatnot. He's a big Deep Purple fan, which I think is probably why Iron Maiden ended up working with Martin Birch in the first place, is because they were all huge Deep Purple and Ian Gillan fans. I think Maiden Japan is probably one of the favorite Deep Purple albums of Bruce, which of course Iron Maiden made a live EP called Maiden Japan, actually, as homage to that. The interesting thing is, if you talk to Bruce for a while, which I did at great length, you find out what his influences are, and he's not ashamed to say that he's a big Ian Gillan fan. And if you go back and listen to the early Deep Purple records, and then you listen to some of the Iron Maiden stuff, you sort of go, oh yeah, there's that thing he does with his voice. And he's a big fan of Arthur Brown. And Arthur Brown is pretty obscure now, but at least here in the U.S., he's fairly obscure. But he had a band called The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, who probably made a bigger splash in the U.K. at the time than they did here. But there was one single called Fire, which still gets some airplay on oldies radio sometimes. You'd have to look it up. I think Arthur Brown lives in Texas now. But, and he had a very crazy kind of dramatic delivery, and this was like around 1970, 71, and Bruce is a huge fan of Arthur Brown. And I went back and listened to the record, and I thought, oh yeah, okay, there it is. There's another influence. And he's also a big fan of Ian Anderson. He loves Jethro Tull. And just a lot of those old records that I grew up with, Bruce is like, he gets his influences from everywhere. But Ian Gillan is a big one for him.
Hey guys, if you want to.
So I've got I'll have a link to that video in the show notes, on all the videos in the show notes, but a little bit of a background on how he feels about Ian Gillan. Also got some quotes here that Jonathan sent over. So this was when Bruce Dickinson was on the Rock God segment on the BBC. He said, "You can't talk about Iron Maiden without first mentioning Deep Purple." So yeah, this is the intro to it. I'm sorry. A group that Dickinson first heard after accidentally stumbling upon their album In Rock. And Dickinson says, "I was walking up and down the corridor at boarding school and I heard this racket coming from behind a door. I thought, oh my God, what's that? So I knocked on the door and this senior boy opened the door and looked at me with a big sneer on his face. I asked, who's that? And he went, oh, it's Deep Purple, if you must know, Speed King, and shut the door. And that was that. I was hooked." Having said all that, I met Ian Gillan. Not only did I meet him, I actually went on tour with him when I was in the band called Samson. So he tells a story. He says, I was in the studio. We'd done an album with Ian Gillan's studio. We'd all been at the pub and had a few pints, and in walks Ian Gillan and goes, "Hey, what a great vocalist. Who's the singer?" At that moment, I felt the sudden urge to vomit. I ran out of the room, puked up for about 45 minutes. And then when in comes my idol, kicks the door and goes, "Come on, mate, out you come. Let's get you wiped down with a towel." He put me in a taxi and sent me home. I've never forgotten that. And he's never let me forget it either.
Yeah, I heard apparently that was the first time and probably only time that Bruce Dickinson smoked weed. That's why he was so pukish.
Oh,
at
really?
that time. Yeah, and then Ian Gillan was like pretty much used to that kind of stuff, so he felt pretty much ashamed, I guess, in front of his hero, not being able to use the same. Not being able to like benefit from the same beneficial herb.
Adrian Smith says, when I was about 14 or 15, I was kind of a clueless, your usual type of teenager, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I sort of wandered into my sister's bedroom to check out her albums, which were normally soul records, The Temptations, Motown, and then I noticed she had new records, and one of them was Deep Purple, a record called Machine Head. So I put the album on a little record player, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. That was it, really. It sort of changed my life. I thought, well, I'd love to be out doing that one day. The fishing had kind of tapered off in those days. I couldn't imagine my heroes like Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple and people like that going fishing. So I thought, well, I'd give it up and give it all my time to try to make it as a professional musician. So that's what I did. That is also from an article, which I have a link to as well, where it's, one of those clickbait articles is like, here's why Adrian Smith doesn't fish anymore because of Ritchie Blackmore. I had seen that one a couple years ago, and I was like, all right, I know it's clickbait, but I gotta know where they're going with this. And I guess he was like really big into fishing, and But then he was like, basically like, well, Ritchie Blackmore plays guitar that good, so I bet he doesn't spend a lot of time fishing, so I'm gonna have to stop fishing so I can focus on my guitar playing. That's basically
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh boy.
But they,
Well,
you know, that it's a good headline.
Yeah. Well, I guess bottom line is that pretty much every member of Iron Maiden was really into Deep Purple. I think if you had to mention one band only, it would be that. Steve Harris would bring out more obscure stuff like Wishbone Ash or something like that. And then, of course, Thin Lizzy with the double, harmony guitars and all of that. But I think Deep Purple first and foremost. And when they started out, they were sort of deemed the new Deep Purple. And that makes more sense if you listen to the early 80s stuff with Paul. After that, they don't sound much like Deep Purple at all. But on the first couple of albums, yeah, you get some of those type of riffs and arrangements. It's much more closer. And I also heard that it was Blackmore that turned Birch onto Maiden. I've heard that. I don't remember the source of the story, but I heard that he played I was in Long Island, so I guess not far from John right now. Not that far anyway. And he played in 1980 the debut album. He played it on, I think, on his birthday, I heard, and to Martin Birch then, and sort of it feels far removed for Ritchie to promote another artist. Like I've never heard of anything like that.
He must have liked him.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe something worked.
He's not one to be shy about his opinions.
Right, exactly. So that's sort of the story, and of course, Martin Birch is the biggest link as well. In between these two bands, because that's his life work. I mean, he's done great albums as well: Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, Fire of Unknown Origin, Blue Oyster Cult, the band you just saw recently. And so there's a few good there, but his big thing has been Iron Maiden, and prior to that, Deep Purple. So that's the thickest connection we have here. And I would love if it was true that Ritchie actually showed him the first LP on Long Island and turned him on to the band. That would be great.
Well, you know what? Our listeners there's at least probably half a dozen listeners right now that are frantically going through their old Kerangs or whatever to find articles to send us. So we'll have to follow up on that, because I'm sure there's something to it. But you sent in some tracks that you are saying are kind of some key tracks to listen to. And I'm proud to say that I actually know a couple of them, which is good. So the first one you sent in was Murders in the Rue Morgue from Killers.
Yep.
So you're bringing this one to us as maybe a Deep Purple influential track.
Yeah, definitely drum wise, and Deep Purple family oriented, I would say, because Cozy Powell basically. There is a fill in here. There's a song you feature on your show called Lost in Hollywood from Down to Earth record, and in like 30 seconds you will have the same fill, just accented 1/8 off, otherwise the exact same fill. And they've all been huge fans of Paice and Powell, both Nico McBrain and Clive Burr, who is drumming on this record. So this is the one.
Oh, yeah.
Note by note, Cozy Powell fill.
Wow.
Also a good song.
And it's like a little more, slightly more up. There's that traditional Rainbow song that's in this mold. This is maybe a little more up tempo and a little bit more, almost dare I say, like punkier in the vocal delivery.
Definitely in this era they had a lot of punk in them, even though Steve doesn't like punk. He keeps repeating, but here you got some of that. And Rainbow Tempo
kind of had that feel to them, right?
Yeah. Rainbow Tempo, but the riff itself, if it would have been slowed down, is sort of a Deep Purple riff. That's kind of single note, Ritchie riff. You could adapt it into that, I think. You familiar with this one, John?
Yeah, this is actually one of the early songs that I really like.
Cool.
Because I am familiar with the first couple of albums. I haven't heard them in a while, but I actually like the Paul Di'Anno albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those situations like the Mark I and Mark II thing where,
right,
took off like into the stratosphere after this.
Yeah.
But Birch produced this one, right?
Yeah, this is his debut with the band, and killer sounding album, no pun intended. Sounds really good, you know. But he was coming in fresh from Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell at that time, and all the stuff he did with Deep Purple, you know. So he's already a star, basically. And another thing that is sort of Deep Purple connected with this track is that you have this solo passage that is not over the verse riff, not over the chorus riff, but a completely different part. I think it starts around here. You know, it's moving into a, I guess, instrumental phase, a little bit of harmony there, which I like. You know, I should do that more often in my songs. Just don't solo over the verse or some used old riff. Make a new solo part. You know, it's a good thing. And this a little bit Highway Star, right? There's a little bit Highway Star here.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Actually, yeah, that's true. I was actually thinking that.
Ah, cool.
You and I
But
talked
now
a
I
lot
can hear it
offline
a lot more.
about the influence that like bands like Deep Purple and Iron Maiden had on early video game music. And this is one of those examples, this solo section that sounds like it could be on like, you know, the soundtrack for Double Dragon or something.
Yeah, Mega Man.
Yeah, exactly.
This song was also on.
Those early Nintendo composers were just rocking out to Iron Maiden and Deep Purple and like, we gotta turn in a song, it's due tomorrow, and then they just programmed something in with just cool,
not afraid
to
steal it. You know, they were not afraid to steal anything.
No. They're like, and video games were so kind of, you know, almost underground at that point. Like, who's gonna notice?
Yeah, different market, I guess, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a groovy song, and it benefits a lot from Martin Birch as well. Just, you know, the punch in that snare is intense without being, you know, an intense snare today. You talk a lot about that kind of stuff, you know, the production and how it changed in the 80s and how it changed up until now. Today, an intense snare can be sort of painful, it's like super compressed, overly compressed, but this is just powerful, you know. And I'm guessing they brought in a couple of Cozy Powell tracks and can you make it sound a bit like this, you know, or referenced at least, you know. And including that drum fill, which is a beautiful drum fill. Only difference is that Maiden emphasize on the last 8 notes. They like to do that, you know, with that kind of syncopation, like, but otherwise it's note by note. Yeah,
that's great. And so that one, what year was that? Was that 81?
81, yeah.
81. So we've got some. You talked earlier. Bruce Dickinson lists his favorite albums. You got a bunch of them here, but In Rock by Deep Purple's the first one on the list. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. You've got Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix, Aqualung by Jethro Tull, Led Zeppelin 4, Volume 4 by Black Sabbath, Rising by Rainbow. Yep. So going down the list, one of our favorites, Blizzard of Oz.
Yeah. And Rising too, right?
Rising, yep. Come and Get It by Whitesnake.
Yep.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of. And then he lists Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
He lists himself. I like when guys do that. Ozzy Osbourne did that too. Top vocalist. He was in the list.
There's an interview with Ian Gillan where they asked him, like, it was a few years back. It was probably maybe 20 years back at this point, but they asked him, like, what are your top 5 songs or whatever, and he lists like 4 songs, and then his last one is Razzle Dazzle off of Bananas, which is so I only imagine it must have been right after Bananas came out, because he's probably just being a wise ass, like. And it's just funny, of all the Deep Purple songs to mention, that he mentions Razzle Dazzle, which is kind of, I've heard more people just kind of rag on that song than anything. So it could have been just as a result as a reaction to that, just to rile people up. But who knows? It just always thought it was funny.
Look forward to that one on your podcast in a year or 2 or
yeah. At this rate, I don't know. Yeah. I was thinking of actually lengthening out our spreadsheet to see if we slot them in every X number of episodes, when we'd get to that, to the all of them. But who knows? So you've got Birch basically was the producer of Deep Purple from the concerto through Come Taste the Band, and then the live albums as well. He's listed as an engineer because it's produced by Deep Purple, but we know that it was Birch producing.
At first he was an engineer, right? Sorry to interrupt. I think he was, and then he sort of branched out into doing the whole thing, the whole production.
Yeah, I think he was listed I don't think he got listed as a producer until maybe Stormbringer or something, Burn or Stormbringer, or co-producer or something like that with the band. But I mean, essentially, he was the producer the entire time. He's making it all happen.
and he always stayed sort of engineer like. That was his thing, that he wouldn't be that kind of, I'm gonna make you guys stars. He wasn't that guy. Or however
Hey,
your
baby.
record executive voice character is, imagine that voice. And he wasn't doing that. He was sort of grounded, I guess you can say,
Well,
as a
I
producer.
think and on Pod of Thunder, when they did their episode right after Martin Birch passed away, where they did the original version of Here I Go Again by Whitesnake, and they talk extensively about the use of the word hobo. And how
that was great. I
they were
was
like this, they
long
were like,
distance biking. Listen to that, I remember. Yeah, that was great.
it's a great episode. If you haven't
Yeah.
heard it, you got to listen to it. Chris in particular was really telling, like, mostly usually a producer would come in and say, no, the word hobo cannot be in this song, but he,
Exactly.
like you said, he wasn't that kind of producer. He
No, not really, not really. And also, I think Pot of Thunder actually did Murders in the Room as well, that we just listened to. I think they had that. They did Wergles there as well, a couple of Maiden tracks.
Oh yeah. So for Iron Maiden, he did everything from Killers in 1981 through Fear of the Dark in 1992. So yeah, it got a good. I mean, Martin Birch has got quite a discography.
Oh yeah, and an early retirement as well, which is nice, because he passed away a while ago, R.I.P. But he got an early nice retirement at like 52 after.
Yeah, I would say, did he do anything after Iron Maiden, like at 92?
No, it was a
I think
proper
92
retirement.
was pretty much the end, right?
Yeah.
Good for him. I hope.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, didn't I read somewhere that his last the last Iron Maiden album was his last album, or the last one he did was like a recent one, and then he just didn't do anything else.
Yeah, that was it. 92. He was off.
Yep.
I don't have his birth date in front of me, but I think
got
he
a
wasn't
pretty
much
good,
older than 50, something around there.
Yeah, he died, unfortunately, he passed away very young. He was only in his 60s, I think, right?
Yeah, but that makes the early retirement even more called for.
Right. I'm sorry, he
at
died
least
at
he got
70.
like a full set of life, including that nice part at the end where you're not doing shit. Where you just, I don't know,
Yes.
you're 75 years old and you're driving and you're not caring about others. John's father, that face, he still got it in, even though he wasn't 75.
Nate and I are already looking forward to that phase of life. So
Yes.
Yeah, I have to admit, me too, man. I do.
That Jerry Seinfeld bit where he's like, is at a certain point you're just like, there's a certain point where you just don't look
care
behind
anymore.
you when you back up. He's like, I'm old and I'm coming back. It's kind of one of those things. But so yeah, we got a few other I got a little group of photos here to talk about when we're getting into the Iron Maiden connections. And the first one here is this picture here from the band Gillan. So the obvious big connection here. Yannick with his
Janik Gers, yeah.
Do you say Janik or Yannick?
I say Janik, but I think it's a Polish name, and I'm as clueless as you guys in pronouncing
Well,
that.
don't be so sure about that.
But yeah, Janik Gers, he joined Iron Maiden in 1990, so he's not part of that, the I guess the golden years, but he's a beloved member at this time. And the reason
the new
I
guy
think
has only been in the band for like 30.
Yeah, exactly. The new guy for 40 years or 30. But yeah, the reason I think he joined was pretty much that he got this opportunity with Gillan. I think from all my calculations, he must be a great guy because like guitar wise, he's good, but not stand out. But he must be a great guy because everyone's calling him in, Even the Marillion guy, Fish, called him in as well. Like, hey, come sit, stand in for a tour. And Gillan was, believe it or not friends with his guitarist at some point. And he wasn't even rich, he wasn't no pasta in the face, I guess, but something along those lines. And then he decided to call Janik because he had to open for Gillan with White Spirit, which is a pretty cool band, actually. It's pretty solid rocking. I think John would like it, actually, White Spirit. Yeah.
Have to check them out. So this guitar, you had something in your notes like that. You think this guitar was gifted to him by Gillan?
I'm not sure if it's this one, but he did receive a guitar from Ian Gillan, that he used
Some
for
kind of Strat.
years to come. Yeah,
that's a beauty. So we haven't gotten into this era of Gillan yet on our show, but we're looking very much forward to it. And we've got, what else do we have here? Next photo is a picture of them backstage with Ritchie
And a football.
and Eddie, and a football. Yes.
Yeah.
Ritchie is holding a football like he's holding the earth in his hand. And,
Another connection, the sort of freakish interest in football in between
Yes.
him and Steve. Actually, Bruce is not that into football. Not all Europeans are. I'm not, but yeah, we do play with the foot though, so that's something on you guys. You play football with your hands.
Yes. Yeah, our football is weird.
Yeah.
Why it's called football, I don't know.
But yeah, it's a nice photo, right? It's a fun one.
Yeah. It's a great photo. There's a whole series from this, but this is the only one I could find that was like a good resolution. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, them backstage with must be the stage prop they were using for the show. And I guess
Yeah.
it must have been during a Rainbow and Iron
Exactly.
Maiden.
Yeah, Rainbow, because this is 82, so it was some maybe JLT Rainbow era.
And Maiden was opening for them.
Yeah. Wow.
But it's a great picture. And if there's some other sillier ones that are just not as high resolution that you should definitely check out. Then some stuff that we'll get to a little bit later. We've got Bruce in the studio with John Lord, huge mixing console. And I think we have some video from around this time later on, but the Silver Fox era of John Lord.
It's a good look.
Cool. It's a great look. Then you've
John Lord never looked not cool.
That's right, actually. Yeah, even his I was gonna say his older look was even better, with the sort of the cocaine look was amazing. The Magnum PI,
the
big ass stash, and
the shirt unbuttoned
until the navel. Yeah, wow, yeah. What a cool guy, actually. What a cool guy.
So cool. But yeah, he covered cool in so many different ways. Then you've got Ian Paice, Dickinson, Iommi, all hanging out in a Janik, all hanging out. So you got two guitarists. They're just shy of a band. Maybe Janik is playing bass. I don't know. I'm not sure where that picture is from. Oops, that's me again.
That was you.
This other one for some reason isn't loading up. It's just a picture of Ian and Bruce, but no big deal.
Good that you find those. I forgot sending you any photos, but I was wishing for that football picture to show up, because I think there's some nice vibe in it. It feels like it's a good time. They're having a good time.
Yeah, and it shows kind of the respect that Ritchie for Ritchie to be hanging out with you backstage. That means he likes. He doesn't even hang out with his own band backstage.
No, exactly.
His own dressing room. And
from my work, I know some of the metal. I guess you could say the metal elite in Stockholm, and some of them have managed to meet Ritchie through like a shared guitar tech or something like that. And apparently, what happens is he walks in, acknowledges he will acknowledge your existence, and then leave. Right after, that's what you get basically. Like Mick Åkerfeldt in Opeth is a pretty big star, and his favorite guy is Ritchie. He even tries to look like him, in many ways, and that's all he got. But then of course he's happy getting only that, because he knows Ritchie like Ritchie, like not as the nice guy, you could say. But here he looks nice. He looks like he's actually hanging out with the band.
And I think generally he is a nice guy.
We have no clue.
A prankster and all that. But I mean, I just got done listening to Jeff Bryce actually sent me a link to a podcast interview that he and Candace did. It was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, and oh man, it's just hilarious. He's just so funny, and when him and Candace are just together, it's actually always a really interesting dynamic, because she's she tries to steer things in the right direction.
Yeah, it's like the light and the shade, right? Shade being Ritchie.
Yes. But he's joking the whole time, and he's always throwing stuff out. And I always feel bad for the interviewer, because if the interviewer doesn't know Ritchie and his story and his background, he delivers these lines so dryly that you just believe that he's telling the truth. He just makes crazy things up, but it's a really entertaining interview. I'll have to send it to you guys or put it in the show notes. But he tells some great stories, and just kind of just talks about what he's doing and why he's doing it, and it's a lot of fun, and you gotta respect him for doing what he wants to do. Okay, so a couple of other things we've got here. So we kind of talked about the kind of the backgrounds, the influences, and then of course we've got some of the collaborations and some of the other things. So here we've got a video of Deep Purple jamming with Iron Maiden, and this is from London in 2002. So let's see if I can find this one really quick. Here we go.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, you never know what's going to happen tonight. We bumped into a couple of friends last night, so they may come up and just join us in a minute.
A couple of friends.
In the meantime,
Our relaxed Ian Gillan as always.
Yeah, he's a master.
Yeah. He comes off rather comfortable at all times, doesn't he?
He sure does. I mean, he's a cucumber. It's amazing, just like you're watching Deep Purple. This is the Hammersmith Apollo, September 7th, 2002.
I like that. Also, Paice is just keeping a beat while you wait.
Yeah, doing a wild little jazz.
Yeah, just like a bit of entertainment when they, I guess, arranging this, whatever is gonna happen. There we go.
Roger's just laying down a groove. We got a few more guitarists joining the stage.
I've never seen this, by the way.
Oh no.
This must be with Steve Morse, I guess. Oh yeah.
Making faces at each other. So is that Janik and Steve?
Yeah, Janik and Steve, I guess.
Sounds like Roger stopped playing altogether. Yes, I don't think the video synced up to the audio, but
Imitating each other's licks. That's nice. And we got
Also-
Nico with a tambourine.
Nico and Gillan are on the congas and the tambourine.
I mean, it doesn't sound great, but I love seeing it. It doesn't sound great.
They're having fun.
Yeah.
And Bruce Dickinson is just kind of like wandering around the stage with his
Just hiding in the
lanyard on,
background.
like he's part of the crew.
But it's also interesting that the band would do this kind of thing. This is what we did with our friends when we were 20.
Right.
Oh, we got a couple of friends over. Let's jam.
Yeah, but it was in your bedroom, not at the Hammersmith Apollo.
I was in a small bar, to be fair.
A small bar. Yeah,
A small bar.
Yeah, maybe.
Capacity of 60. Yeah, but that's the thing, and I think
I'm sure that
It's sort of
I'm
a-
sure everyone in the audience just got a kick out of it. Like, hey, it's Iron Maiden and Deep Purple jamming on stage. Who cares?
I find it cool too because I don't think even Black Sabbath would do this. This is pretty much completely raw in a way. There's no way you plan this in detail. Basically, you're just seeing what happens. And, speaks to the improvisation from this band.
I think this is 20 years ago. That's crazy.
Also, a thing I really like about Deep Purple, they're not shy for, they're not shying away from improvisation.
Nope.
Again, it doesn't sound great, but awesome that they did this. Yeah, but I can't say it's that impressive in my ears, but still, yeah, cool.
I think having the video, and they're all like chatting with each other. Like it sounds like they're
Yeah.
just talking. So, what are you doing after the show?
Pretty much. Some harmonies thrown in there.
Tapers off after that. But There you go. So very free form. I don't
Very
know.
free form.
You can hardly tell, but it was not rehearsed at all. Completely unrehearsed jam session.
Really?
Never seen that. Never seen that. Again, I have to say it didn't sound that cool, but it looked nice. It was fun to see, and you know, with a band like Deep Purple, a big band. What do you say in the beginning of your episodes? One of the most legendary bands of all time, and they still do this. You know, I like that.
Yeah, it's great to know that's like, wow, that's the stuff that I would have done getting together with my friends. Although our guitar chops might not been quite at that level, but the same level of cohesion, just kind of getting together and having fun, and that's kind of cool. So you also mentioned another song that you said this song is potentially the most Deep Purple sounding Iron Maiden song, and what song is that?
It's called Innocent Exile, and I still think it is. Like, there's no other. In this bass intro, still sort of just Maiden, but
yeah.
When you listen to it kick in, definitely the biggest Purple vibes you get from this band. Like this one. Very Purple-less riff.
The little riff. Dare I say
maybe,
the vocals kind of remind me of JLT.
More so
maybe
than
like Burn
Gillan.
era.
Yeah, someone mentioned when I said this, someone mentioned Come Taste the Band as well, and you might hear that in the solo a little bit.
Yeah, like it definitely sounds like post Gillan Purple.
Yeah,
like I picture this being like on Burn or Stormbringer maybe.
Yeah, funky parts of Purple. Yeah, and it swings really nice too, I think.
You can hear Coverdale laying some vocals down over this.
For sure. And of course, this is more of the dramatic flair that you know Maiden for. This break part.
Yeah, the harmonies.
Yeah. Check out the guitar solo. Almost, woody.
Yeah. Almost bordering on like the slide snake charmer sort of stuff.
Yeah, and a bit bolin too,
Yeah, I can hear all of that.
Yeah. So the story behind Killers is that most of the songs were written in mid to late 70s. And they were kind of, they had to quickly release a sophomore album, and they decided to use all of their ideas, basically. So The Killers is a very 70s sounding album, and a lot of Deep Purple in the riffs. What you don't get is, of course, no organ.
Yeah.
And this too, with this kind of rockabilly almost,
Yeah.
This would be Dave Murray, also a fan of Ritchie, of course. Everyone is. Every guitarist should be.
Who was the guitar player you had on your show that was doing a bunch of doing like kind of the guess the solo thing with the Maiden songs?
One of my first guitar teachers, Christian Niemann is his name. Incredible player. Yeah, world-class level. He did Adrian Smith solos. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a really fun episode.
Yeah, we have more of those in line, actually. The gallop sort of enters here a little bit. That differentiates them from Purple too. Purple would normally not gallop, really.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing I always associate with Iron Maiden.
Love that. Ooh. Percussive noises, That could be Gillan as well, a little bit.
That end though is a really come taste the band ending.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
I still think that's
it's so many times. Obviously, the sophomore album gets the usually justly so. It's usually just not up to par with the debut or whatever. But this album to me, from the little I know of it, just sounds really polished and professional, and like it doesn't sound like it was thrown together quickly, even though I'm sure it was.
What's cool about it is that it's sort of the best of the rest of the 70s. They've used up the hits for the first record, but in you get these extra forces in Adrian Smith coming in on the guitar, arguably their best guitarist ever, and then also you have Martin Birch coming in. So that's, it's a lovely combination of you're using up the rest of your material, but you get help from these musical geniuses, that brings something extra to it. So I think that album has a special place for me. There's no epics on it, there's no long songs, which I guess John might like, fan of the rockers. It's a bit more tight, like a club gig, and it has a ballad too, a great ballad. Prodigal Son is the name of it. So I think it's a very complete record, and currently it would be my first choice of a Maiden record, but that differs.
Nice. Well, jumping ahead a little bit, we've got them in the studio here. So this is from this I thought was interesting, because I think this is during the Who Cares sessions. And the thing I think is interesting about it is it shows kind of some behind the scenes of Tony Iommi, Ian Gillan, Nico McBrain, and John Lord in the studio. Yeah. And I just, to me, the first time I saw this video, aside from the amazingly silly hat that Ian Gillan is wearing in the interview portion, once you get through that, it's you're following John Lord into the studio, and almost like POV from John Lord's perspective, just how everyone's reaction when he walks in and just the reverence they have for him, which I think is really cool. But let's just kind of take a little watch of that here.
So it has its own integrity. It's about how things stay in your mind, and how we had this between our teeth and it never went away, and the job wasn't finished, so now we're going to get it done.
Song Studios, October 2009.
Sounds good back here. Sounds good back in this room again. Oh, I know, it's 2 albums here, isn't it? Was it? Oh, it was. Just Down to Death.
A lot of toms.
Matter of Life and Death.
Just kind of working on the drums here. It's cool to just his cameraman would have had to been sitting on top of everybody, but it's so great that he was there to be able to capture this stuff.
This is the Final Frontier, sorry. He gave Eddie a good doing on the last tour.
John, did you ever hear Who Cares?
Natasha, our wardrobe girl.
I don't think so.
There's a different outfit.
Just a couple of songs. I think it was some sort of Armenian.
We were in the Bahamas, and he was around.
Yeah, it was for the earthquake.
A big spliff in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
So you got like Tony Iommi riffs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here comes John.
Somewhere, I believe. Here's your piece. Nothing particularly exotic. I feel all right. Yeah, not bad for an old one. Well, come through. I will.
Tony Iommi just hanging around.
Yes, he's outside. Oh, he's arrived, is he? He's outside, yes. You know?
Hello. This is Ara from the Rockade.
I'm from Armenia. Nice to meet you. Hello. Tony, my dear John. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm bloody great, mate. Dear boy.
Bloody great.
Oh, goodness.
Bloody great.
Oh, looking great, as always. How are you? Go to the foot of our stairs. I haven't seen you since...
Germany.
Well, no, wasn't it?
Tony Iommi's looking at
Miami. That's right. We did see each other. Yes, in the airport. Yeah. Got still a long time ago. Nice to meet you, sir. Nice to meet you. So, yeah. Good. Is it really an E flat? Yes. It's not in the people's key then.
Some good musician jokes right there.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Not funny to anyone.
I like your first E as the people's key.
Well, Sir Paul calls it the people's key.
Oh,
E.
right. Oh, right.
Yeah, but E flat, it's not rock and roll, is it? You know, sounds great. But you're a drummer. I would know. So good to see you.
Dragging on the drummer.
Yes, look out.
Covers all the bases.
Oh, you stand by there. Stand by. Hello, Captain. How are you? Captain. Officer.
How's it going, buddy? Oh, yeah, you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm pleased. Thank you very much. This wouldn't be a
Ian Gillan,
Lovely to
big
see you,
hugs
my
to
dear.
Tony and
No,
Nico,
thank you
and
so
then,
very much for inviting
of
me.
course, John.
Yeah, see.
I mean, it's a cool band. It's a cool band setup.
Oh, fantastic. Genuinely a pleasure.
Yeah, the boys are here. Better have a drink.
What are you
then.
So just a
The
little
boys are here.
just kind of a little fun thing, I think, just seeing all those guys just hobnobbing around and joking about like, why are you writing a rock song in E flat?
The people's
all mad at
key, E
Tony
minor.
Iommi.
Yeah,
E flat, come on now.
yeah. But a nice lineup anyway. You know, you have John Lord on the keys. You have Tony Iommi, you know, on the guitar. You know,
That's
hell
not
yeah.
bad.
And Nico McBain on the drums. I think they also put Jason Newsted on the bass, but on over distance.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry, you
he
can't
was
come
in
in
his
and
own.
hang out with the. So let's listen to one of those tracks from that. Here it is. That's the track you were just speaking of. Let's take a listen.
All in Your Mind or whatever it is.
Out of My Mind.
Out of My Mind. Yeah.
Sounds like some very Jason Newsted bass.
And the riff is very 90s too.
But yeah, not bad. Iron Maiden, Metallica, Deep Purple,
Sabbath.
Sabbath.
It's almost too much.
Yeah, it's
All the big boys.
Yeah.
I feel like this is when you hear in like sporting arenas and stuff.
Gillan doing the hammer. There we go, Jason.
Jason promoting him. John Lord's got a full Hammond setup there.
But he's too low in the mix.
Yeah.
That's the 90s for you.
So this must have been one of the last times Gillan saw or worked with Lord.
Yeah.
Got
I think
sick
it's early
very shortly
2000s
after.
actually. I kept saying 90s because the song sounds 90s, but I think it's early 2000s sometime.
I think it was the summer after this where
Maybe the first time you could hear Gillan sing over Iommi riffs after Born Again.
Yeah.
Probably. It's not remarkable riffage or anything, but you know, just the lineup, I guess.
Yeah, you can just listen. It almost doesn't even matter what they're playing.
Pretty much.
Who's that second guitarist?
Yeah, there's a secret guy. He's not famous, so they're not cutting him in too often.
Then it turns into an Ian Gillan band song.
Also a little Aussie, actually. Oh,
Yeah,
what a
well,
lonely life. My favorite part of the song would be that, actually. Like 5 seconds. Good solo, too, though.
I mean, Tony Iommi dominates the whole song just because, like, his riff, his guitar playing is just so distinct. I mean, you may as well call it a Sabbath song or an Iommi solo song.
Pretty much, yeah. He did some good stuff under his own name, too. I like the stuff he did with Phil Anselmo from Pantera, for example. Not bad at all.
I haven't heard any of that. Check it out.
It's even better. I guess this is not awesome. It's better than this, but this is still, yeah, it's cool. Again, just by the lineup.
This is just like probably they were like, hey Tony, we're gonna record a song in 3.5 minutes. What do you got? And he's like, here. And it's like, oh, it's better riff than 99.9% of humanity could write.
It's the riff tap, you know. You have the riff tap.
Yeah,
just put it on. And it's also pretty cool. A little bit of harmony here.
That's really nice. Almost too many legends in one space. And then the secret guy. We gotta find out who that secret guy is. Oh yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not that remarkable as a tune, but it's remarkable as a happening, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, so we got then we kind of get into the concert for John Lord, and we were going to cover that in an upcoming episode. So I don't know how deep we'll dive into this, but maybe we'll just play it all. Who cares? We'll see. We'll see what we play. But Bruce Dickinson does join them for that, and you've got the Celebrating John Lord concerts 2014, a couple years after he passed away. Everyone gets together and we do this. We've played the Glenn Hughes doing This Time Around on the show before. And then to me, this is always the kind of time where it's like the riffraff comes in. You know, you got the Royal Albert Hall. They do all this stuff, all this classical stuff, and John stuff. And then all of a sudden Bruce Dickinson comes on stage and everyone's like just being a bunch of hooligans.
Underdressed too, I think.
Yeah,
coming
underdressed.
In very
Well,
underdressed,
even
like
Ian Gillan's wearing the shirt that like looks like a tuxedo, but it's really a t-shirt.
Yeah. What the hell?
Bunch of jokers.
Which I bet, John Lord probably would have been laughing about, just knowing this. Like, oh, thanks for wearing that for my, the show about, memorializing my life's work.
paying your respect.
Well, it's the most Ian Gillan way to possibly pay respect. So, So here we go. So they come on, and obviously they do Burn. So you're going to have on stage, you're going to have pretty much all of Deep Purple, and Bruce Dickinson. I think Rick Wakeman is there on stage, and he does some stuff. So let's get into it. It's a who's who on stage, as the Royal Albert Hall turns into a hooligan fest here.
Albert Hall, London. Let's have some love for Brother John. Let me hear you.
A weird look for Glenn as well.
Glenn Hughes.
I was going to say Glenn's worst haircut.
Yeah, no, he looks way better.
Actually,
today.
one of them, the mohawk was the faux hawk was not kind of around that era too.
Nice place they're playing.
Saying Devil's Perm.
But never mind. People laughed till she said burn. And that's what we did.
All right, so I'm going to pour the Trooper IPA now. There's an IPA too, Jonathan. Yeah, that's the part that gets me.
All right. Oh well.
I'm like, come on, guys. John Lord.
Playing with an orchestra, the violin players just fainting.
Yeah. Glenn sings great as usual, though. No matter the haircut.
Yeah, exactly.
Always great.
You've got Rick Wakeman and Don Airey there. Somebody with a busted up Strat.
Nice looking Strat. Love this track.
These people are going crazy.
such a great song, and the only thing I would complain is that you don't need an orchestra in Burn.
No.
It's already full of color. Like, it doesn't add anything.
It's kind of giving it like the live and let die treatment.
Yeah.
With those like the mallets and stuff.
It's
I
well
love it.
done,
Like,
but
yeah, the orchestra you don't need. Kind of ruins it.
I would agree with you, John. Yeah, it just doesn't give anything to the song. It's already full of color, you know, completely saturated as is.
You got Don there. Steve isn't on stage for this, but Don is. And when, you know, often people talk about like that I'll let Glenn get a scream in.
Not as overblown as on California Jam, though.
Oh boy.
A little bit more backward. Probably less nose candy, basically.
People often talk about, like, you know, that the dream that there'd be a Deep Purple retrospective concert where they come out. And this is kind of the closest they ever came, was the tribute to John Lord.
Yeah, just no Ritchie.
No Ritchie, and sadly. As much as I think it's stupid to talk about Ritchie joining Deep Purple, playing with Deep Purple, for something like this, it would, I mean, everyone would.
Yeah, but he did make that Carry On song.
Yeah.
That's something, you know. It was more sad with the Dio thing, that he didn't even, you know, really acknowledge that. That was a bit sad, I think. Rick Wakeman, yeah.
So they're doing
friggin' Bruce Dickinson walking around.
Here.
Yeah.
He looks like Jimbo Jones from The Simpsons.
Definitely does. With that everlast cropped off tank top, yeah.
Oh.
He does. He looks like one. He
Jimbo
looks like a. He
Jones.
looks like a. He looks like he's ready to go bully somebody after the concert.
Yeah.
Like
go bully like kid.
Yeah.
Hey kid, give me your lunch. He sings Burn. He's like, hey kid, give me your lunch money. Hey Pacey, give me your lunch money.
Yeah. That's Nelson though, but yeah.
Nelson, yeah, he looks like Nelson or Jimbo.
Or Jimbo even more, yeah.
Hey, my hat.
That was how I learned your language by that show, Simpson. I really did, because I really wanted to see it.
Great way to learn it.
Yeah, the best. But it's fun, you got all this orchestra, you have Rick Wakeman, he's the best ever, but it's still like, it's not at all like a competitive version of the song. It's nowhere near what you hear on like Made in Europe, for example. It's a lot better. But
Don Airey's killing that John Lord solo, though.
That's true, though, yeah.
Well, it's funny, because you would have been familiar with playing this with Rainbow, probably, and...
Oh, they did Burn?
They must have, yeah, they must have done Burn. Looks like he's got some sheet music up there, but you'd be familiar. He must have played this with Ritchie.
I mean, even Ingrid Malmsteen repeatedly is doing Burn.
Right. It's a hard song not to do. You got the chops to do it.
If you can, you will, I guess. In both.
Well, Bruce is doing a great job with it. They're not like they're kind of off lines, not so much taking one part or the other.
Ian Paice is always the drummer you want, really.
And he looks so effortlessly.
Yeah.
You've got that like there's Bruce.
Sounds pretty good actually on this one. Not Coverdale good, but good.
Different
Agreed.
Different direction. I don't know who that guitar player is. Looks like the love child of Marty Friedman and Slash.
Something like that, yeah.
Good, whoever he is.
Standing ovations.
I think this is what in my mind, this is always, like I said, when the riffraff comes in. I don't know if this was like the opener to the second half of the concert or whatever it was, but to me, that's just how I always associate it. It was like, always like, get on your feet, motherfuckers! Like, whoa! We were just playing Here Be Friends and all this other stuff, and
easy now.
Now you're just like kicking the walls in. Jeez.
I just love it's like, here's a tribute to our friend who passed away. Now get on your feet, motherfuckers! Like, what the? Calm down, Jesus.
I have to agree with that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't think he's even that much of a, he's not a tough guy. He's not from Mean Street. I think he tries to be that sometimes.
Well, like definitely you said, he's dressed like a bully. He's gonna like go
right, Jimbo Jones.
stealing candy from kids behind the Albert Hall. Hey kid, do you have any candy? Well, you don't anymore.
Give me your lunch money.
So also from that performance, we've got them back on stage with Ian this time, doing Hush. I can find it. So deep Bruce Dickinson, where are you?
There's a recent version of Hush as well from like last year or 2 years back or something.
Is there? I'm not finding it right now, so maybe I don't have that one handy. But we do have, when we're talking about recent things, as you know, Bruce Dickinson arranged for the 50th anniversary of the concerto to be done in Quebec City, and that happened. So that's really cool. And I don't know if this is from, wait, was that last year that they did it?
Ooh, recent, right? Because concerto was 70s, early 70s.
69, so
okay.
So maybe it wasn't the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
But at any rate, here's Bruce Dickinson doing it, doing Perfect Strangers at the concerto. There's a couple Perfect Strangers things with him, but here he is. You might recognize the conductor.
He's miming a zombie right now. Yeah.
And this is like cell phone video.
And long haired again. I like that though.
Yeah.
Not many go back
out since then. He's going instead of for like the thuggish bully look, he's going for the like distinguished college professor look with the wearing the vest after class.
Yeah, he just needs the blazer with like those patches on the elbows.
Tweed with patches, yeah.
Professor Dickinson.
Yeah.
And Roger Glover's going to be over there to the left.
Oh, nicely done, I would say.
Whole man conducting again.
The conductor looks like he's ready to pass out. He's like, oh, I'm winded from
He's
waving the stick around. Oh.
Late for work, Had to skip the shower.
Does he look at the look on his face though? He looks like exasperated. Like
he's awesome. I mean, he worked very closely with John Lord in the years before he passed away, and has conducted a bunch of stuff like this. Conducted the last thing we just watched.
All right. Of all things in music, the thing I know the least is how you conduct an orchestra. I have no clue.
It takes a different. Oh. Move to the. I think they just scooted right by Roger Glover there. There he is.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah. Your new friend.
Exactly. our pal, our buddy. Somebody playing a Joe Satriani model Ibanez there.
Oh yeah. Or Steve Vai, maybe?
Steve Vai's guitars are getting more and more out of hand. So that three-necked guitar he has. He's like a fretless. It's like one fretless, a regular guitar, a fretless guitar, and then one that's like half bass, half guitar, half fretless, half fretted on the same neck. It's insane.
I would also say again, and I guess John would agree with me, that you don't really need an orchestra for this song either. Like every time Bruce is doing Purple songs, you got an orchestra there, and they're doing their job perfectly. But
I mean, I guess the idea, I mean, yeah, it's probably not necessary, but I think the idea is that they're doing like full performances of the concerto, so they have the orchestra, so they just figure, well, we'll do some orchestrations for the other songs as well.
Fits in a little better than with Burn.
Which is interesting because when they did the first concerto, they just played a few. They played like Child in Time and a few other songs, either before or after the concerto. I can't remember what.
There was more back to back, right? Sort of sending the ball back and forth.
Right, but they didn't try to include the orchestra into Child in Time.
Which I think was a good call, to be honest.
Yeah, well, but had they had the time and resources, they probably would have. But they were just like,
right.
We're just.
I mean, it depends on taste, but at least to my ears, hard rock music is already saturated enough. You don't need to add more saturation to it,
Yeah, it's saturated, and it's usually just that solid wall too.
But it does fit better here. I agree with you, John. This song has more space. Burn is very busy with all those, pacey drum solo verses that he's doing.
I think one thing worth mentioning is Bruce sounds great.
Yeah, his voice is really suited to the song. Never realized how much of an influence Purple was on him, or on Iron Maiden in general.
This little dance that he's doing.
That's why we're here. Oh yeah, the poses. He's almost going into that. What did you call that? Old man dancing.
Kooky Uncle Bruce.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I don't know. It looks like he's doing the friggin' Elvis like karate moves, for crying out loud.
Yeah, he's just so and he's just in heaven right now, being able to perform this stuff, and he sounds great. And I think that's one thing we probably should have talked about a little bit more, and talk about Iron Maiden and Deep Purple. Is just Ian Gillan is obviously one of the the legends of rock, but Bruce Dickinson is equally as well regarded as just being such an incredible singer. Listening to some of his stuff, I know you guys have done it on your show. Listen to some of his stuff, isolated vocal tracks of him, and all. It's just unbelievable what that guy can produce, and how consistent he is, and how good he can sound at this age, performing live with all of this stuff going on. That's no small feat.
Yeah, definitely, and he's staying very healthy as well. Never been a smoker and all that kind of stuff. So
and
almost
you look at him and Glenn Hughes, and the common thread is neither of them were ever a smoker, and look at how great they sound now. It's just unbelievable what that can unfortunately do to your voice.
Yeah, I was gonna say he ages almost as little as our friend here, Matola. It's a similar kind of non-aging that he's been, he's got the gray hair going on, but I personally think that looks pretty cool. The silverback stuff. Yeah.
I'll be a silver fox one day.
You're not gonna dye it?
Nah, don't do that. It looks cool. That's a bit of a different ending, isn't it?
Yeah, very different.
Nicely done.
Oof. Tight cut on that one.
That was really good.
Yeah,
pretty incredible. So obviously that's Bruce performing live in Quebec. Or I think it might not be in Quebec, but it's from that same tour or whatever that they did, reviving the concerto for its 50th. It might have been part of, I don't know how much they toured. I kind of lost track of what exactly they did with that due to COVID and everything being canceled, but
it's recent anyway, it's fairly recent.
And then we got a couple of things that we didn't get to that I think we'll probably leave on the cutting room floor, but I think one thing we have to talk about was something that you sent me earlier today, right before we were about to record, which I had never seen before. And that is, so I don't know, do you want to set this? I think you know what I'm talking about. Do you want to set this one up? Because it's a little weird.
Yeah, sure. We're talking like mid 80s, the earlier part of the mid 80s, and Iron Maiden are touring in Poland, which was not that common then. You had the Iron Curtain and everything. It turned into that video behind the Iron Curtain. And somehow, that I don't know how, but somehow they found their way to a wedding, a Polish wedding, and decided to fill in as the wedding band, playing Deep Purple, in the mid '80s in Poland.
So,
yeah, remarkable.
So let's take a look at this, because this is pretty amazing. The night before, or how Iron Maiden came to play at a Polish wedding.
Was it a wedding? It was. Hello. First time Iron Maiden played a Polish wedding. That's right. We played at a Polish wedding, which you obviously have seen already, or you will be seeing shortly, like one of the two, depending where this bit's slotted, if it's slotted at all. You know what I mean? So we ended up going down. It's supposed to have been a disco, wasn't it? And it ended up being a sort of a converted ballroom. So there was this wedding going on at the time, about 300 people dancing at the waltz as we walked in, you see. So we got severely sort of into the bottle of booze, see? See Bruce as well? Didn't we? Then these people in the club said, would you like to have a jam? Yes, we said. Didn't we? Yeah. And we did.
On a wedding.
We're playing like a funky version of Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Couple dancing.
Not really the best dance song out there. But they like.
I don't know. I beg to differ. Those people are having a good time.
Yeah. The whole thing is just like it only happens once. Singing along, they know the song.
Oh yeah, they know it.
Well, it's been out for like 10 years minimum at this time. But yeah.
Well, in Poland, it probably just came out.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, there was a lot of limitations behind that curtain.
The wedding party, the Waiflix pissed. She's like, "Excuse me, how did this come about?"
But it's sort of surreal, you know. It's something I would be dreaming.
I'm still a little foggy on exactly like how they ended up there and how this ended up happening. Like they just stumbled into a Polish wedding, and you're just like, "Oh yeah, sure."
Yeah.
All I know is that if I was in a Polish wedding and Iron Maiden showed up and started playing Deep Purple, I'd take advantage of it and be dancing around.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Whether it was danceable or not.
Yeah. I mean, that version was almost danceable.
Yeah, they definitely had a little swing to it, a nice swing to it too.
It would be funny if he was at the wedding and he's like, "Come on, you motherfuckers!"
Yeah, already then.
Then the bride would be really pissed.
To the bride, to like to the mother of the bride, "Get off your feet, you motherfuckers!"
I mean, from what I know from Polish people, they are good at partying, though.
No, apparently, I mean, that looked like I went to a wedding in France years ago, and I'll tell you, I was not prepared for what happens, because in America it's very formulaic. You know exactly when everything's going to happen, and then 11 o'clock they're like, boom, music off, lights up, everyone beat it, and it's over, and you're just like, whoa. When I went to the wedding in France, it was like 4 a.m. There were like 2-year-olds on the dance floor, like just doing breakdancing moves, and I was just like, I'm gonna die. Like I had to leave. I went to bed. I woke up in the morning. They're out in the pools, like swimming. They never even slept. I'm like, at this point, I don't even know how old I was. Probably my mid-30s, and I could not keep up with these people that were far younger than me. So I can only imagine. American weddings are very tame and very, very predictable. And that's kind of one of the things I liked about it. It was a very different wedding. It was a lot of fun.
As was probably this one. Looked also quite unpredictable.
Yes.
All of a sudden we have this
I think when Iron Maiden shows up unannounced.
Yeah.
There's
one British band that is touring here. One, not many did. I don't know about Deep Purple, but not many did, before the Soviet Union closed down.
Right. Yeah. That would have been pretty unusual, I would think. Yeah.
Was to stand out and
thrilled to have somebody, like this big, they obviously knew the music, and I don't know if they knew Iron Maiden at that point, but
they brought the whole production too, which was a big thing. So they almost made no money, but they made a nice buzz. and they were
Oh,
just
yeah.
coming into the biggest years of the band. So it was probably a great call, and they probably have had lots of revenue coming in, in subsequent years after doing that. Really making a stand in Poland before everyone else. I know that the Scorpions were early too, but most bands didn't. You just didn't tour it.
Yeah, they're lucky for a few years later, the Iron Curtain would fall, and they'd be like, "Hey, there's a concert happening at the local Coliseum. Isn't that the band that was at your wedding? Oh my God, it is. We're gonna go see them. This is great buzz, great marketing buzz. There's some good buzz marketing in the streets of Krakow or whatever, or Warsaw. All right, yeah. So, man, Deep Purple and Iron Maiden. There's some connections there. A lot of fun stuff. Definitely. Like I said, I've appreciated you for your knowledge on Iron Maiden. But before we close things out, we have to, of course, thank our core level patrons who are coming in late this week. So thank you very much to our core level patrons. Coming in at the $7.77 Keep It Warm Rat tier, we have Michael Vader. At the episode $6.66 tier, Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith, Anton Glaving, Mike Catan. At the $6.65 Almost Evil tier, we have Kenny Wymore. And at the $5.99 Nice Price tier, we have Fielding Fowler, Robert Smith, and Peter from Illinois. And at the $5 Moneylender tier, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Elman, Alexei the Perfect Stranger Slepikoff, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Kev Roberts, Will Porter, Zwapper the Electric Alchemist, and Tim Southern Cross Johnson. Thank you so much to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. All right. So anything to say in closing before we thank our next batch of patrons here?
Well, just good to be on, I guess. The right time to come on the show.
Well, the right time.
A show I've been listening to for years, like 3 years. Is it 3 years now?
Almost,
yeah. It's been a good ride, and Mondays I already like them. I like them more now, and also Nate turned me on to Pot of Thunder, previously mentioned. So Mondays are gold these years. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say. So good to be here, and be fun to do something else later without Iron Maiden in the mix.
Yes, for sure. We've got the Iron Maiden connections out of the way. We'll have to cue something else up, and just also a big appreciation to you for coming on so late, because it's what time is it your time right now?
3 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He never sleeps anyway.
Heading for bed. Yeah. That's the common rumor, I guess. But actually now it's getting brighter. It's getting brighter in the morning. So I was up pretty early this morning. So I'm tired enough to feel like this is a good place to stop.
Yes. Good. If you're saying that, then I can only imagine. I would feel a lot worse if I didn't know that you message back so quickly and everything whenever we're talking. That I'm like, what, does this guy ever sleep? He's 7 hours ahead of us.
Well, it differs a little bit. Depends on other factors in life when I sleep. But these days I'm back to a bit of a normal schedule. So yeah, I'm up late, but I'm up late for you guys, so it's good.
Well, we appreciate that. We'll try to get it done even earlier next time. All right, so we'll close it off with thanking our foundation level patrons. So of course we do that by starting off by thanking at the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, we have Raf Calf. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, we have Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Duncan Leask, Stuart McCord, Flight of the Rat Bat Blue Light, Ivan Fieldboo. It's a great life in the Norwegian. And Runar Simonson. It's a great life in the Norwegian. And at the $1 made up name tier, we have the 22 Leaky Avenue, Leaky Mausoleum, Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 Fanatic, Spike the Rock Cat, JJ Stenard, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel, and new patron Sugar Tits. Thank you so much for making me say that every week now.
Every week from now on.
Yeah,
I love it.
Sorry,
Sugar
people.
Tits.
Sorry. Oh my goodness, that gets us the explicit rating. Thank you so much to everybody.
Yeah, that gives us the explicit rating.
And
Not
only
come
that.
on, you motherfuckers.
Usually we're a little. This might be our most explicit show yet. Oh my goodness. And you know what? It's also. It's a great life in the great life if you're from Sweden, as Jonathan can attest to. Thank you so
There we
much
go.
for joining us. We really appreciate it. Check out Maiden A to Z. Check out Gain It for Riffs. Check out the back catalog of Gain It for Riffs. Some amazing episodes, including your episode on Captain Beyond is unbelievable. Just the research and the fun, and it's just such a well put together episode. Just breaking down how great that first album is and talking about all the riffs. It's I think it was it your holiday or your Christmas or New Year's special?
New Year's special, and
New
I
Year's
think
special.
it was the best one we did.
So
There's a couple of good ones in there though. So if you're into that kind of stuff, yeah, you can check them out. It's gonna be some fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you love, just Gain It for Riffs is the name of the show. I'll put a link in the show notes. But that episode was just a lot of fun, and I remember it being around the holidays, and just kind of the fun atmosphere of the show is just, it was just a pleasure to listen to. And Maiden A to Z is much the same. Just a lot of great shows, great guests, cool way of going through the catalog, random yet structured. If you're into Iron Maiden, Jonathan is the man to follow. So
with
thank
your
you so
show,
much.
that was the big thing actually. Captain Beyond. If you guys wouldn't have liked it, maybe we wouldn't be here today. That was really important. But you liked it.
That we liked that episode?
No, this is the album, Captain Beyond subtitle.
Yeah.
Important one. Very important.
Oh, yes, it is very good.
When you liked it, okay, I can be friends with these guys.
Yes.
That's how we went. And here we are.
That's right.
Right.
Well,
yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a great time. A lot of
absolutely.
fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Come back again.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.